because as vice president acts as Senate president pro tempore, among other things, meaning that they serve as the tie-breaking vote in the Senate, but also means that they preside over the counting of these votes. They wanted Pence to count the votes of their guys, essentially. And this plan to do so in these 7 swing states that Trump all lost resulted in, here, for example, here's a statement from a lawyer. This lawyer is an Arizona lawyer that the Trump team reached out to kickstart the process of suing it and putting together this fake elector group in Arizona. And this is he characterized a talk he had with Cheeseborough to the DOJ as follows. He said, I just talked to him, who's Cheeseborough, and his idea is all of us, meaning all the 7 states, quote, have our electors send in their votes, even though the votes aren't legal under federal law, because they're not signed by the governor, so that members of Congress can fight about whether they should be counted on January 6th. They could potentially argue that they're not bound by federal law because they're Congress and make the law, etc. Kind of wild and creative. I'm happy to discuss. My comment to him was, I guess there's no harm in it, legally at least, i.e. we would be just sending in quote-unquote fake electoral votes to Pence so that, quote, someone in Congress can make an objection when they start counting votes and start arguing that the fake vote should be counted. That's significant to me, one, because it kind of outlines their playbook, but two, it also shows that at least some of the people involved didn't think they were breaking the law, didn't knowingly violate any federal statutes, which I think is important because, and this is from the first paragraph of the indictment, or the third paragraph of the indictment. Jack Smith, if he did write the indictment, the grand jury found Trump, indicted Trump directly, but the DOJ puts this language together, and Smith said, the defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim, falsely, that there had been outcome-determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. Interesting. He was also entitled to formally challenge the results of the election through lawful and appropriate means, such as by seeking recounts or audits of the popular vote in states or filing lawsuits challenging ballots and procedures. He did all of that, by the way. Filed lawsuits in all 7 of these states. And initially, the picture this indictment paints is that it started out as an actual legitimate scheme to have electors in place in case their completely legal challenge for a recount in Wisconsin came through. Very small margin of victory for Biden there, so it was perfectly legitimate to think, okay, well, let's get these electors ready just in case we win. And that very quickly went from, no, let's get electors ready in every state that we lost and steamroll our way over our, potential Republican allies and have them. Here's another state with Republicans. We saw, I keep forgetting this guy's name, Rusty Bowers. I want to call him Rusty Buckets for some reason. That's a Republican who rebuked him. Republicans in Michigan and Georgia as well. In Michigan, they tried to get, let's go to Michigan here for a second. In Michigan, on November 20th, which was 3 days before Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed a certificate of ascertainment notifying the federal government that, based on the popular vote, Biden's electors were to represent Michigan's voters. So Whitmer sent in that certificate on November 23rd. 3 days before that, on the 20th, Trump hosted Michigan's House of Representatives Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader of the Michigan Senate in the Oval Office. And again, basically leaned on them and said, we lost because of fraud. You need to get the legislature together. We need to recertify and get new electors. And they basically told him that he lost not because of fraud, but, quote, because the defendant had underperformed a certain voter population in the state. I don't know about the Senate Majority Leader. I just haven't had enough time to research everything today and reading this indictment and all the other stuff. But I know the House Speaker is a Republican. So another Republican who released a statement. This is the Speaker of Michigan's House in November, who said, we've diligently examined these reports of fraud to the best of our ability. I fought hard for President Trump. Nobody wanted him to win more than me. I think he's done an incredible job. But I love our republic too. I can't fathom risking our norms, traditions, and institutions to pass a resolution retroactively changing the electors for Trump simply because some think there may have been enough widespread fraud to give him the win. That's unprecedented for good reason. And that's why there is not enough support in the House to cast a new slate of electors. I fear we lose our country forever. This truly would bring mutually assured destruction for every future election in regards to the Electoral College. And I can't stand for that. I won't. Like, Jesus. And then in Georgia, Trump's substantiated claims of ballot dumping prompted this tweet from the Georgia Secretary of State's chief operating officer, who's a Republican named Gabriel Sterling. And I'll throw the tweet up. It says, the 90-second video of election workers at State Farm Arena purporting to show fraud was watched in its entirety, hours, by the Georgia Secretary of State investigators. Shows normal ballot processing. Here is the fact check on it. When presented with this evidence by the Georgia Secretary of State, another Republican named Brad Raffensperger, Trump said, I don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have a much better link. It's funny you could picture him the way he says it. Brad. So yeah, basically all these Republicans who I'm sure would love to not be living in Biden's America said, you're not even giving us anything to go on here. We have nothing. We can't help you, bro. And he still tried to shoehorn his fake electors in. I don't know if I said it earlier because I had to cut, but a lot of these fake electors were told that what they were doing was legal, and that they were only going to be used if Pence nullified the other electors, which was bullshit from the beginning because Pence, in this indictment shows, was never in on it. And that's going to be a big part of whether or not Trump goes to jail, which would be fucking nuts to have a sitting president. Well, I would just like to say again, I'm not a Trump guy. I never voted for him. I don't think he's gotten the fairest shake in the media or in the government, but also he brings a lot of his bullshit on himself. I don't think it's a good idea in America for our democracy to prosecute the number one opposition of the current sitting regime. I just think it's a bad look. Makes us look like a banana republic. Just beat him fair and square. And then you can, if you need to, then no one is above the law. My ass, by the way, no one's above the law. But okay, if that's really, how we're playing it, do it after. Win the election and then prosecute him. Because this is the type of stuff that it's just going to make Americans further lose faith in their institutions.